many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take a life, but they'll never take our freedom?
And welcome to Anti-Tyranny News Radio here on UCY.TV. Thank you for joining me this evening. Few things I'm going to get into tonight. This one, Obama threatens, or White House literally threatens to shut down Department of Homeland Security. Rhino Revenge, Graham McCain, remove Tea Party foes. The NYPD, I'm going to cover a little bit more on that, about their work stoppage. I have an article out of the Rolling Stone covering that. Idaho governor signing a emergency nullifying legislation. Cover that one. Actually, I think that one's old. Never mind. Yeah, that's one that Ben Swan shared from March. I don't know why he reshared that one. Thought it sounds familiar. I think I covered that one on this broadcast. Basically nullifying any present or future federal laws, gun laws that would go against the Second Amendment. And definitely am for that. Let's go ahead and jump into the Rhino Revenge. There was all these Tea Partyists going, the Republican Party took, control of Congress again, and, it's going to be no. But, this is what many of us, definitely people that might have been cheering on Ron Paul, campaigning for Ron Paul. We already understand that the Republican establishment, the progressive Republicans, they're not letting go. The big government, and that progressive, that word's been dirtied. A true progressive, most people, unless they want to live a older lifestyle, might be progressive. If you're into technology, you might be progressive. That's progressive moving. But what progressive is really anymore is just big government. So when you hear progressive, they're big government. The Republicans, the GOP, they're not going to allow Tea Partyists to gain any control. This one out of benswan.com. Rhino Revenge, Graham McCain removed Tea Party foes. Senators and best friends, John McCain, Republican from Arizona, Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, are removing their adversaries from their state Republican parties to control campaign funds and party politics. According to Politico, McCain is seeking revenge on the state party that had him censored by having his political team engage in an aggressive and systematic campaign to reshape the state GOP apparatus by ridding it of conservative firebrands and replacing them with steadfast allies. In his focus are conservative activists who hold obscure but influential local party offices. By doing this, he is removing the party officials who are also in control of campaign funds. There has been a huge organizational effort that I've never seen before, said Gordon James, an Arizona public relations executive and longtime McCain confidant. Told Politico. A lot of the party folks who were hostile to John McCain have been marginalized, and that's a good thing. In October, Graham also did some housekeeping. According to Fitz News, anti-Graham members of the South Carolina Greenville County Republican Party were removed, calling a seismic shift within the party. Former executive committeeman Bill Rhodes was unceremoniously booted from the Greenville GOP for disloyalty, namely refusing to support Graham's candidacy. Two other executive committee members resigned from the party in protest of the way Rhodes was treated, reported Fitz News. One GOP insider told BenSwan.com's Joshua Cook that Graham has his eye on Greenville County, a local party that censored him for his progressive voting record. There is an organized effort to remove all limited government and pro-liberty executive committee members by systematically purging them from the party. Fitz News calls this move the Greenville coup. The Greenville County Executive Committee, which includes Graham's regional director as one of its members, recently tried to pass a rule change requiring the body to pass future censure motions by a two-thirds vote instead of the current majority vote. Graham has been on the receiving end of two censures from the party. Fortunately, that rules change was defeated by the conservatives still left in the Greenville GOP. Tea Party leaders are planning to take back the party from establishment Republicans loyal to Graham at precinct reorganization next spring, but a few weeks ago the county party leadership announced significant changes to the upcoming precinct reorganization. Some have speculated that these changes will allow more centralized control of the process. Simply put, Tea Party leaders have an uphill battle to regain influence and control of the county parties. Some speculate this move by Graham could be revenge on the Tea Party, but it could be something more practical, like laying the groundwork for his own presidential run in 2016. I don't think Graham's going to run. Who knows? I just don't see it happening. And this is the same, type crap they used against Ron Paul supporters. The videos out there where they're taking a so-called voice vote of everybody at the Republican National Convention, and they had it scripted and went across the teleprompter that the yays had it, when obviously you could tell that, well, there was a lot of no's. That was basically a tie, if anything, if the no's didn't have it. But before the vote was even actually, when he goes, yay or nay thing, it was already going across the teleprompter. So it was all scripted. And they'll change rules whether you want them to or not, or whether you vote against it. This shows the corruption in the whole voting system. If they're willing to do this at their own convention, are these the people that you want in control of a government? Probably not. Does this, basically out the whole political process? I think it does. If there's corruption at that level, I think there's corruption throughout. I think that's pretty evident to most people. Okay. Sorry, I have a little issue here. There we go. Some kind of upside news, you could call it that. This from the Conservative Tribune. Breaking: White House early threatens to shut down Department of Homeland Security. Everybody knew that one kid, they were young when they were younger, when they didn't get their way, would pitch a fit and take their toy or ball and just go home. President Barack Obama basically just pitched a fit and threatened to take his toy called the Department of Homeland Security away from everybody if the Republicans in Congress won't fund his illegal and unconstitutional amnesty plans. This was actually on December 31st that this was posted. According to the Daily Caller, one of Obama's top aides said that Obama could essentially block all funding for and essentially shut down the DHS if the GOP tries to do anything legislatively about his executive amnesty. Good. Get rid of it. That's what I say. Says Dan Pfeiffer said that Obama would block all funding for the entire department and would veto any spending bill if the Republicans try to impose cuts to spending aimed at stopping or slowing Obama's plans to allow illegal immigrants into the country. This is basically a threat to the GOP to force them to back off plans to defund Obama's amnesty. I think the Republicans know that they have little to no leverage, Pfeiffer said, according to the Daily Caller. Are they going to shut down the Department of Homeland Security to undo our executive action? I don't think so. I don't think they are going to do that. There is an array of little things they can do. I mean, it is possible. Insanity will prevail upon the House Republican caucus as it did last October during the 2013 shutdown, he said. As most should remember, a massive Columbus spending bill, Cronius, or I think that's misspelled, spending bill recently passed by Congress to fund the government until next September only, included funding for the DHS through February. The GOP's plan is to do a separate funding bill just for the DHS and will likely include special provisions to defund and stop the implementation of Obama's amnesty. If the GOP does do that, Obama carries through with his threat to veto that special bill, then Obama will have to shut down the DHS in an effort to save his amnesty plan. Considering that Obama's DHS isn't doing much to defend the U.S. right now anyway, maybe Congress should call Obama's bluff, since DHS has already moved ICE agents and Border Patrol away from the border and is more concerned with what is happening in Ferguson than in El Paso. Do we even really need them? Again, that's from the Conservative Tribune. I say shut them down. I just say shut them down. Do you really think that we need a Department of Homeland Security? Who championed? Oh yeah, Hitler championed his, Department of Homeland Security, basically. Yep, don't need it. Conservative Tribune again. Go check it out if you want. Now, when we look at, DHS, defend us from foreign I think other countries need more defense against us than we need against them. But I'm sure that's going to turn around when the whole role of the U.S. in the world flips. Now, many people are talking about, World War III. I think we're basically in World War III. We're in the early stages of it. And anybody thinks that world wars really didn't last that long. They didn't compared to, if you look at Iraq and Afghanistan. No, the world wars. But there was a time before it became a world war that nations were starting to war with each other, and there was tensions, and it kept building up until it became full blown. World War I, World War II. Well, I think we're already in those stages. And, we've talked about Ukraine and Russia and the U.S. and even, the currency wars with Russia and China. It seems that they're working pretty good to bring us off the dollar for the petro reserve. I do think that that's going to happen. It's hard to tell what's going to happen first, or if someone's going to step in and maybe do something that prevents it. It's really hard to tell, definitely with so many variables to the situation. But Christopher Green from AMTV, he had a take, and it was on the strategic role of Ukraine in World War III. And I'm going to go ahead and cue that up.
Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green and you're tuning into AMTV, Alternative Media Television. In today's video, I'm going to discuss why Ukraine is a strategic player in the geopolitical chess game, the new Cold War between the United States and Russia, and why I think it's the catalyst for World War III. In my humble opinion, I think this is how the history books will look at what's happening in the Ukraine today, this destabilization effort that's being led by the United States, and the inevitable response by Russia. We're seeing some of this fallout right now with even protests, some protests picking up in Moscow at this very moment as the Russian economy has been grossly destabilized by the West and by the United States, not just through efforts through the Ukraine, but also global manipulation of our oil markets and our currency markets to destabilize the government of Vladimir Putin. And hopefully, at the very least, from the eyes of the United States and Western leadership, buy a little bit more time, and at best, maybe even potentially overthrow Putin. And believe me, Vladimir Putin is a strong individual. He understands this threat. He understands the seriousness of this altercation, the fact that his economy is largely non-diversified from oil. Over 50% of its revenues, its GDP, actually comes from the oil markets. It's exactly why Obama, who actually went on air, this was reported in some outlets, and pretty much admitted that this is gross manipulation by the U.S. federal government to bring down Russia, to pin our enemies into a corner, not just Russia, but also the BRICS nations and the rising East. All of this, I believe, again, is a flashpoint for World War III. Why is Ukraine such a strategic country? It's a very large country, by the way. It's second in size to Russia in this part of the world. If you compare it to European nations, it's actually larger than France. It also accounts for 80% of all Russian exports of natural gas and oil-related products through its pipelines to the rest of the world. 70% of which goes to Europe and European nations. It's one of the reasons that Europe has a keen interest on these pipelines. Now, Putin, the president of Russia, had struck a deal with the Ukrainian people and actually subsidized things like natural gas due to the fact that he has largely had his Black Sea Fleet, his naval base in the Crimean Peninsula, which has recently been annexed by popular vote, a Democratic vote, which you would think the American people and American government would support, has been successfully annexed to Russia. But the larger Ukraine has since been toppled. The previous rightful leadership, friendly to Russia, the Yanukovych government, Viktor Yanukovych, has been toppled. And this has been a huge win for the West. And everybody watching and who understands this geopolitical game knows this, and it's why it's put Putin into a corner. You see, historians have always viewed Ukraine and Russia's pseudo-control of Ukraine as the difference between Russia being a country and an empire as it encroaches further to the west. It's again why the United States has been behind this coup, having even armed, and this is widely known, this has been widely reported on, even widely armed not just the terrorists on the ground that overthrew the rightfully democratically elected leader and government in the name of Viktor Yanukovych's government, but had been arming neo-Nazis on the ground, terrorists with weapons of war that actually, it's come out, had shot on its own people during this very violent revolution. Now, since this period of time, because this area, Sevastopol, which is a port city near the Crimean Peninsula where the Black Sea Fleet is located, because that is so strategic to Vladimir Putin, they had a vote, and the popular vote, over 90% plus of the people voted to annex themselves to Russia, largely Russian-speaking and dominant area of this part of the world. So we have this geopolitical chess game playing out right now. And largely we could argue that the destabilization effort that has been launched by the West has been successful up until this point. The ruble having since collapsed, oil prices dropping roughly 45% and growing in less than 6 months. Again, you know, the United States, this actually also hurts the U.S. in the short run as we depend, not just with our shale production, which has taken over largely since 2008, which I find strange in and of itself. I find that a conspiracy, the fact that, you know, oil, we didn't have enough supply, but now we suddenly do post the greatest transfer of wealth, redistribution of wealth, and the largest financial collapse in recent history, largely occurring between the 2008 and 2009 period. This also temporarily hurts U.S. oil production. Again, the United States is also very dependent on the oil trade. And that's where the rub lies with all this, is the petrodollar has largely dominated geopolitics and global trade and global economies for some time now. NATO has dominated. Europe, largely in cahoots with the United States, has dominated the global picture. But all of this is changing as our local economies here in the States have been destabilized by super leverage, derivative markets, bailouts, and just the excessiveness that has made up American consumerism, where we've transferred all of our original manufacturing, as used to be Detroit, overseas to other countries like China that have been buying U.S. treasuries in recent years, but have actually been selling their holdings leading up to this war. Ukraine also is home to very many nuclear reactors, which makes it a powerhouse, not just for potentially making nuclear weapons and potentially bringing about a nuclear war, but also has a lot of steel and makes other weapons and ballistic missiles, and also is used in Russia's space program. Again, this is a very strategic part of the world, not just with the Black Sea Fleet and the Russian Navy in the Crimean Peninsula, but also militarily. Because again, with Russian control of the Ukraine, which was the control that they had just some months ago, They are encroaching on the West's supremacy. Again, the BRICS nations are taking over Brazil, Russia, India, and China. They're doing business and trade of oil in their own currencies. And the United States is trying to hold on to the last semblance, its grip of world power. Now Putin's very leadership and government is being threatened, and he will respond accordingly. You know, when you compare Russia's economy, their debt to GDP, according to the IMF, you'll actually come to understand that Russia is actually in a fairly strong position long term. They have a debt to GDP ratio of around 15%. Compare that to the United States, according to the IMF findings, of 80%. You'll see just how much stronger of a debt to GDP position Russia is actually in. They have a strong economy. Yes, they need to diversify away from their dependence on oil, like the United States has done, not just dependent on oil, but also selling iPads and also selling other technology. It's also why Russia, Vladimir Putin, and largely the BRICS nations have been making a push for something called the Eurasian Union, which is a counterpoint and would be in direct competition to Europe, the United States, and the European Union. They've been trying to unsuccessfully up until this point Union, the BRICS nations, and the rising East. It's one of the reasons we're seeing the IMF respond to the economic situation and the economic turmoil in the Ukraine by loaning the Ukraine tens of billions of dollars in new issuance of debt coming from the IMF and the World Bank so that the West can implicitly control this new puppet government. The IMF and the World Bank have been the world's loan sharks up until this point. It's exactly why Vladimir Putin, Russia, the Eurasian Union, the BRICS nations want to change this. There's a number of ways that Putin can respond to U.S. sanctions, can respond to this attack, this destabilization in the Ukraine, and the destabilization of his own government, some of which he's already implemented. The first thing that the Russian people did, the government did, Putin did, was to lift the subsidies that he had been giving Ukraine over the past several years, a discount on natural gas. This has grossly destabilized the Ukrainian economy and puts a lot of pressure on them economically. And the U.S., through the IMF, the World Bank, and also Russia have been bidding to loan the Ukraine money so that they are dependent on one or the other's governments. Other things that President Vladimir Putin can do, and he has been doing since 2008, is buying lots of gold. In fact, Russia is one of the largest buyers, has made up one of the largest buyers in the world of gold post the 2008-2009 financial crash that started in the United States with the systemic risk that was financial institutions like Lehman Brothers and spread to Europe and the rest of the world. In addition to that, President Vladimir Putin could fight fire with fire and in effect not pay back any outstanding debt that has been loaned out from the IMF and the World Bank and potentially destabilize the entire Eurozone itself. Remember, financial institutions like Lehman Brothers brought down an entire global economy. It started in the United States, spread to the interconnected global financial community, to Europe and the rest of the world. And this could be successfully implemented by Vladimir Putin if he simply decides not to pay back his outstanding debt to the IMF and the World Bank. The destabilization effort of the Ukraine actually might be a successful effort on behalf of the United States if it weren't for the fact that we didn't have such great and challenging structural problems at the very core of our own government and our own financial system here in the USA. If it wasn't for the fact of this excessive leverage, this excessive debt, $18+ trillion, these bailouts, quantitative easing, 0% interest rates, and artificial manipulation that has recently driven the stock market to 18,000, this may in fact be a successful strategy. The U.S. may be able to hurt Russia by driving down oil prices and pinning Vladimir Putin into a corner. But long term, the trajectory of the U.S. economy and our financial system itself, our very government that is tearing apart, ripping apart at the seams, is not sustainable. And that's why I've always suggested over countless videos that I've posted on YouTube, thousands of videos, that we need to address these structural core problems at the heart of the corruption involved in American politics today, with our political leadership, the banking cartel, these very large financial institutions that have duped the American people, that have made trillions of dollars on the upside and then duped them into trillions of dollars worth of bailouts on the downside. All of this redistribution of wealth taking place, by the way, because of this buildup to global conflict and to the war, the next war, World War III, which I very humbly believe Ukraine is a flashpoint too. I'm Christopher Green. You've been tuning into AMTV, Alternative Media Television, hard-hitting and in your face. Get this video out everywhere. Share it with your friends and family. and make it viral.
Okay, that was Christopher Green, AMTV on YouTube. Russia and China both have been in a just gold buying spree. You know, you go to RT. Russia seeks haven and gold away from dollar and euro. Returning to gold standard, a disaster to humble even. Can't read the rest of that. You look at China. China's been buying gold up. One of the other biggest investors in gold right now. Both of these countries are basically working together. And when you look at all this, it's pretty evident that Russia and China are putting themselves in a better position than the U.S. to have a strong dollar. Their currency, whether it be the yen or if they create this Euro-Asia union between them and a lot of Asia. So when we're looking at this, it's pretty evident that the dollar it's going to collapse. We're seeing that with the prices of gas falling, so has the price of gold and silver. People are like, yeah, it's dropping in price. Oh no. That's a good thing, because what's happening is oil and gas are artificially being held down. The price of it's being held down. And you think, oh, Russia, you know, they raise their interest rate. Listen, Russia knows, well, if we can't really sell too much of our oil, we can still buy gold. While all of this is going on, gold prices are dropping. Therefore, Russia and China are still buying up gold, and now they're doing it at cheaper prices, meaning they can buy more quantity of gold. And this will put the U.S. in a worse situation. You know, that's why lately I've been buying gold, silver, prepping gear. I've been investing in the preparedness of the future, and I'm doing what I can to prepare myself for the future. And gold and silver are extremely important for the simple fact that with anybody from any country, gold and silver are considered, you know, currency. It's something that you can trade with. When the paper dollar, when you have to take a wheelbarrow full of hundreds just to go get a loaf of bread, that gold and silver is going to still have value. And it's not the silver bullet, kind of pun there, but it's something that I believe every prepper should definitely have in their arsenal is some gold and silver. If you go to antityrannynews.com/metal, you can go there right now and, you know, click on the silver tab and go over and click on 1 ounce right now. You know, you can get Um, 1 ounce of silver right now for 16.80 something, pure silver. So, and you know, if you can't afford to buy even an ounce, if you just can't afford it, maybe you want to buy a tenth of an ounce. They have those too. You can go there and buy a tenth of an ounce, a quarter of an ounce. Right now, tenth of an ounce is going for $2.88. You can get quarter ounce for about $5.46. Get a little 5-gram bar for $6.18, or even a half ounce of silver for about $9. So there's a chance right now, if you have a little money that you're wanting to invest. Gold and silver is down right now, and by going to that link, you're also helping support alternative media like this broadcast. And you know, right now is the time to really support your alternative media, because we see with this recent death, which I don't wish death upon anybody, but the mainstream media, the ex-mayor of New York, or not mayor, but governor, Como died. I woke up, you know, started putting on news on every screen I have, just soaking up as much as I could. And I watch mainstream media glorify this liberal progressive, this beacon of hope. I about puked back in my coffee. It's just, it's unbelievable. We have media that has demonized people like Ron Paul. And then they glorify this beacon of hope, this liberal progressive. We are constantly divided and conquers. You know, they'll put up a crazy leftist person all the time on a lot of the left-leaning ones that they're not just a little, you know, no, they're like completely radical. And they'll pit the actual true crazy radical right people, which is not Ron Paul, which is not, you know, the Tea Party ones. They'll pit people like Boehner, Lindsey Graham, even some of the ones that are not currently in seats. You know, they'll have them just in there talking because they worked for a administration, but they're big government people. Put the big government leftist, big government right, and glorify them both, and they'll demonize anybody on the left or the right that goes against big government or the status quo. They'll demonize anybody that truly is, you know, questioning, you know, what are you doing? Huh. Whoa, what are you doing asking questions? And they'll demonize them. And remember, that link is anti-tyrannynews.com/metal. And right now they definitely got great prices on silver. Probably some of the lowest prices I've seen in the past couple years. So definitely go check them out. Okay, I had something else here. can get it to come up. Maybe. Been having all kinds of problems earlier, and I got most of it figured out. Still been having a problem with my browser. I've done all the updates and everything. It just, there's something, every time I have Skype open, I know it can't be because my computer doesn't have enough memory, RAM, or anything. Since last time, I think it was that I actually updated Skype is when it started happening. I was debating on whether to update Skype, but it kept popping up and wouldn't go away. They pressured me into it, but I did it anyways, and well, this is just not wanting to work here. Okay, here we go. Well, now that we're into the new year, we know what has basically gone into effect now. That's the Obamacare mandate. Obamacare mandate. Well, here's one out of Next News Network. And this is titled, How Obamacare Screwed My Dad. Give me a second here. And I know government health care because my grandfather is a vet, World War II vet, and dealing with the VA, I know exactly how that government is. I just lost my grandma Thanksgiving morning, and she was having to deal with all the BS. And even with the health, the insurance companies, which now you're mandated to do that. Not only, are they demanding you get some type of insurance, it's with the same insurance companies that you've always had problems. And then they're making them, you have to pay for, in case you men out there get pregnant, you're don't worry, your Obamacare covers you. This is just crazy what this is becoming. But I'm just going to go ahead and play this.
I applied today for Social Security, for health care, through the Obama Health Care federal website with my son, Dominic, who's already an insurance provider. When we went through and figured out what I was going to end up with, I realized that how bad Obamacare program is. Not bad. It's really, really bad because they want the poor people to stay poor, and there's strong incentives for them not to earn the money. So as I went and applied and looked at the calculations, that with my Social Security that I'm going to be collecting and my wife's Social Security, I'm going to be eligible for a federal subsidy to pay my health insurance. My current health insurance is $325. My new health insurance through Obamacare with similar coverage is going to be probably $650, $700 a month. If I want something, and that's with a $10,000 deductible. Now, what good is the insurance with a $10,000 deductible? My new one might come down to $6,000 deductible. Thank you very much. But now my premium goes from $320 a month up to around $700 a month for that type of coverage. But then they come back and say, well, we're going to go ahead and give you federal subsidy of $350, $400 a month, dropping your premium down to somewhere where you're at $350, $400. But it's all based on income, not my income, household income. So if my wife is on Social Security, and God forbid I had a senior citizen who was living with us also and had income, Social Security income, it all is based on household income. This is where the law has to change. It's got to change from household to individual income. With our joint income, that federal subsidy will drop down dramatically lower. If I'm at $35,000 a year income for Social Security for both my wife and myself, that drops down from about $550 a month down to about $300, $200 a month. So if I actually went out and earned more money, if I earned between my Social Security and my allowable earnings for my wife and myself, if I made $65,000, $70,000, we get no subsidy from the government. Thank you very much. My health insurance policy now goes from $325 a month, $10,000 deductible. That goes up to $800 or $900 a month with a lower deductible. It goes between $1,000 to $6,000. But I basically double my insurance. It is totally, totally illegal, worthless, and isn't worth a damn. Because if I make any money, there's a strong incentive for me not to go out and work. Why should I work? If I earn more money, I don't get the subsidy. It's directly tied to the income. Household income. If it was just directly connected to my own Social Security, I might have a fighting chance. But once you put the household income, a wife that works at Walgreens, if you've got a senior citizen who's collecting Social Security $800 a month, it automatically reduces my subsidy from the government. So the whole thing is a friggin' sham. Nobody benefits. And I guess you get penalized too. You get on your you get fined or penalized if you don't get a policy. It's better for me. It's better for me to divorce my wife, go rent a cheap apartment, and be able to change my address so I'm not in a household that has any money, and file separate returns, get a divorce. Then I can get the federal subsidy. When you dig into what this whole administration has done, the Obama administration with this plan for health care, they have totally destroyed the middle class and told the poor people of this country, stay broke, you're going to get an incentive to not make any money, you're going to get a federal subsidy. It's totally despicable. I can't believe that anybody's even doing this. It's absolutely unbelievable. You want me to keep going?
And that was from Next News Network on YouTube. This is exactly the problem. But he says, well, if no, you shouldn't be forced to buy into healthcare. I know a lot of people that don't trust the healthcare, including myself. I don't trust the healthcare system. How it's set up, the pharmaceutical companies running half of it, and you're forced to buy into it. Now, what about people that don't believe in the pharmaceutical side of the medical field, but I think there's a lot of surgery that's definitely helpful. You break a leg or something, or you need something removed or a transplant or things like that, blood transfusion. I think there are things in the medical field that are good, helpful. They're better for humanity. But then on the flip side, half the time they just want to give you some type of pill and send you on your way that ends up doing probably more harm than it does good. Oh, you got heartburn here, let's give you this pill, hope you don't have a heart attack. You're forced to buy into that. You can't go to the doctor and say, I'm only going to pay for surgery for this, but I'm not going to pay for you to just give me a drug, or I got back pain. I need surgery for it, not a whole bunch of pills that have a million side effects. By forcing to buy into the healthcare insurance, well, you're basically being forced to buy in a system that's going to say that, well, we'll approve the pharmaceutical approach, but we don't think that back surgery is necessary. Your doctor thinks that the pill would do just fine. Well, yeah, but I don't take pharmaceutical. Well, that's what we're approving. You know, you can see where this goes bad real quick. This could basically force people onto drugs just to try to help themselves. Maybe even, they're going to prescribe you pain pills instead of doing surgery that you desperately need. Because they don't think you're worth it. Well, that's what death panels and older people are going to have to deal with. And, people already have that problem with the insurance companies. Well, now you're forced to buy into it. And it's written into the law to, have these death panels. I can't believe we are this far. The government is truly, involved in our personal lives to this extent. When I was younger, of course, you have this false sense of freedom that you're constantly being told about. Even though, aware people can realize that it just, I don't think we're in a free society. I don't believe it. I don't understand it. It's just amazing how far we are. Part of it's because of that, being told you live in a free society, to not only realizing, well, we're not, but seeing how far it's gone since you were younger. It definitely is amazing. Okay. I had one here I have a few out of InfoWars. I'm going to cover this one. And here's another instance of basically a Big Brother incident. Again, out of InfoWars, D.C. area schools track students with 30,000 surveillance cameras. According to an investigation by News 4, more than 30,000 cameras are currently operating throughout multiple school districts, 1,300 of which were installed in just the last few months. Although public school officials in D.C. claim the cameras are in response to recent school shootings, local police are already monitoring more than 6,000 streams in real time to look for crime and misbehavior among students. DCPS centrally monitors alarms and security cameras in partnership with the Metropolitan Police Department from a central security command center. DCPS spokeswoman Melissa Salomonwitz told News 4. Paid in part with federal grant money, new schools are even being designed with surveillance in mind, complete with central security hubs to monitor countless school attendees. And now, when they say it's due to the recent school. No, this has been going on back when I was in high school. They had just installed state-of-the-art security, camera systems. State-of-the-art at that time, and I know that they've upgraded since then. So this isn't because of the recent school shootings. This has been championed and been done and has been forwarded through federal grant money to basically force the state schools or the local schools to install these. Yes, you get this grant money. Part of this grant money has to be used for surveillance camera systems to be put in. And we see, they do it in partnership here in, in Washington, D.C. area with the police department. So now things that might normally just be something between, the students and the school can deal with it and try to take appropriate action. Now it could be basically turned into a criminal action. But I'm going to play this clip here from News 4, and you can get this article at InfoWars. DC area schools track students with 30,000 surveillance cameras. And there'll probably be an ad that I'm going to have to skip or wait to get by. Always tends to be. Oh. That was pretty weird. Let's try and play both of them at the same time. Here we go.
1,000 cameras.
That's right, hundreds of them being added a month. But who's really monitoring these cameras?
We got an inside look, and it's a story you're going to see only on 4.
This is the lunch line at Gaithersburg High School. And this is the lunch line at Gaithersburg High School, seen from 4 miles away.
If we want to see this one particular student and what he's got, we can zoom in on him.
With the click of a mouse, Montgomery County Public Schools Security Chief Bob Helmuth can see seemingly everything, even the amount of cash in one student's hand. Montgomery County Public Schools have now deployed 5,000 security cameras in their buildings. Any one of them can be pulled up on the big screen inside the school district's security hub. They can see the lockers and staircases. You can manipulate that camera.
We can.
This holiday week, News 4 has reviewed security operations at 8 local school districts and found a soaring number of security cameras focused on your kids. 30,000 total we found, at least 1,300 of which were added in just the past few months.
Well, this is something that we'd always planned. So when we wired them for the maximum number of cameras we could put in.
In several recent cases, the cameras have helped police investigate crimes or security scares in the buildings. These are burglars. 3 sets of burglars hitting 3 different D.C. elementary schools in recent months. Police used the video to investigate. And police used the views of cameras to investigate a student who triggered a lockdown at a high school in Leesburg 2 weeks ago. A student who was carrying headphones that were mistaken for a weapon. Government agencies have been dishing out grant money to local districts to pay for these cameras in the wake of recent school shootings. But parents and people who live near school buildings say there's no way there's enough staff to watch this many cameras and all those screens.
If you want to see what had happened already, that's great for...
And it gets cut a little short there. Again, I've been watching this happen. It's not just because of recent school shootings. This has been going on. This has been going on for quite a while. Okay. Try and bring up this next article here. Now, when we look at this whole hacking thing with Sony, you know, there was a report out. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. I got too much loading at one time. It's going to flip out on me. I know it will. And I got an article here out of Ben Swan. It's kind of been going around from all the news outlets right now, but I do have one here from Ben Swan. I'm trying to remember if I covered a story I heard. I can't remember if I did, but I did play from AMTV talking about the false Sony using this whole hacking thing as a marketing scam. And like I said, I don't know if that's true, but it would definitely, if it is, it probably worked. But I've seen it on mainstream, and I think it was covered once, and then they never talked about it again. And my buddy that passed away, that's one thing he used to always say, you know, if they talk about once and then it goes away, then you might want to check into it. And so I went to Start Page, which is the search engine I choose to use. It keeps you anonymous. Check it out. But you just type in Sony hack inside job, and you get out of Gawker, Daily Mail, hotair.com. We'll just click on the Daily Mail one. And this is something that I've seen on mainstream TV news, so-called news, and they covered it, but then they didn't talk about it again. And I'm waiting for this one to pop up here from Daily Mail. It might take a second. Okay. Crippling Sony hack was the work of a disgruntled former employee named Lena, who was laid off. Cybersecurity experts have given a detailed outline to the FBI about the hack attack against Sony Pictures, insisting it was not the work of North Korea, but a group of current and former employees who shared a mutual hatred for the company. While the FBI and Sony have announced they believe Pyongyang carried out the attack, claims that were denied by leader Kim Jong-un. Independent security officials have been coming forward for the past week, saying most of the evidence points to an inside job. Silicon Valley security firm Norse, which provides intelligence to companies to prevent their software from being hacked, has been investigating the compromise at Sony and shared their findings with the FBI on Tuesday, according to Gawker. Norse senior vice president Kurt Stamberger said the hack hinges on a woman he called Lena, who he says worked in a key technical position for 10 years, but was sent packing in May during a large sweep of layoffs. And I think there is a video to go with this. I'll play the clip if it is. forgive me for taking so long. This thing just... Someone needs to come up with a completely new browser. And a Skype alternative. There is a clip here. And I'm trying to play it. I don't know if it's going to be useful because it might have too much visualizations to be useful. I don't think it's going to play. But basically, I'm not going to try to play it. Basically, it points out that there's a lot of evidence, and we have Silicon Valley, security, security corporations out there that this is what their job is to do, is to, stop this stuff and look into it and find out, and they're saying, this was an inside job. Well, recent that's hitting all the news outlets, Obama sanctions North Korea, citing discredited Sony allegations. Even though the FBI's allegations that North Korea was behind the hacking of Sony Pictures has long since been discredited, with cybersecurity experts pointing the finger at a group of hackers centered around a disgruntled former employee, President Obama today announced a new round of sanctions against North Korea exclusively in retaliation for this. White House officials termed the sanctions the first aspect of the president's promised proportional retaliation against North Korea for canceling the release of Sony movie, The Interview, a movie which was released at any rate. The timing of the sanctions suggests there's more than just a botched FBI investigation behind them. However, as the sanctions were announced just one day after both North and South Korea began talking up a summit designed to improve ties between the two, wherever North Korea has suggested any sort of rapprochement with the U.S., it has been dismissed by President Obama out of hand, and this move may be designed to sabotage any South Korean talks, or to at least send the signal that no matter what the Park government decides, the U.S. will remains hostile to North Korea. And do you think these sanctions are going to hurt Kim Jong-un? Do you think it's going to harm his way of living? Who does this hurt? It hurts the little guy. It hurts the everyday person in North Korea. Sanctions never hurt the leader. It always hurts the little person. Which eventually it could hurt the guy because they might get mad. Yeah. Because these people that think their leader is a god are going to get mad at their god because they don't have a computer. Don't think so. It also restricts the ability to spread ideas. No one ever wants to talk about that. No one ever wants to talk about that. It's just new rounds of sanctions are only going to hurt the little people, and it goes against what evidence is proving. So it doesn't matter what the truth is. it's what they want to do to it. And, they point out, the fact that he decided to do it right as North Korea and South Korea were talking about, man, let's have a summit and try to, fix the ties between us and have relations. Again, a chance for ideas to cross borders. The idea of, hey, guess what? Your leader's not a god. Hate to tell you, but he's not a god. Okay. I've got an issue here. Technical difficulties. I'm telling you, I think it's about time to upgrade the computer, even though it's not even that old. 7 all kinds of issues. Okay. We have the whole sanctions on North Korea. How it is. We just don't do business with them. And this seems more like a ploy that might be used to say, listen, we see that your movie was about to drop out North Korea. You guys get hacked. We're going to blame it on North Korea. Therefore, we can use that to inject sanctions against North Korea to try to break off the recent communications that North and South Korea have been having about a summit. And the whole Sony and North Korea link is nothing more than a ploy that the government has, don't ever let any crisis go to waste, and they're not. Now, that the missing Air Asia flight, most of you have heard by now that they have been getting debris and bodies. They've been finding even bodies still seat belted in. Seems like that might not be the best place to go take a plane ride. 3 flights so far from that region. The one was, supposedly over Russia. Or, the one just disappeared, never to be seen again. And then this one, they have. It's just, it's sad that these people are losing family members and stuff. I think maybe that area needs to reevaluate their training. There was reports that the pilot had asked to change flight plan altitude and was denied due to other air traffic in the area, and that might have contributed to it. And I know that that area of the ocean and the world experiences quite a bit of storms and turbulence, and I think that's what happened. You know, I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories already on it, and I think this one. It seems to me that there's no funny business with this one, unless it's funny business with those countries' governments that I don't know what their goal would be. I had another one here from BenSwan.com. If it'll load. Looks like it's going to go. Now, there's always a lot of talk about Israel and Palestine, and like I've said in the, I think the two groups on, the one on each side that claim the authority, I think they're both corrupt. And it's same as our left-right paradigm here. They're keeping the people divided. Apparently, Palestine Authority are pushing for a vote for statehood. And the big question is would the vote fail? And Ben Swan asks us, and I'm going to play this here. There we go. And it acted like it was going to play, and now it doesn't want to.
Council has not passed a resolution surrounding Palestine and Israel. That resolution failed tonight, picking up only 8 votes, one short of the 9 needed for passage. The 8
I'm not sure what is going on here.
countries in favor: Jordan, Luxembourg, Russia, China, France, Chad, Argentina, and Chile. The 2 votes against: the U.S. and Australia. And then there were 5 other countries which abstained: UK, Lithuania, Nigeria, South Korea, and Rwanda. So what specifically was this resolution calling for? Number 1, for statehood for the Palestinian people by the end of 2017. An end of occupation and settlement, specifically in the West Bank. Calling for a return to 1967 borders. That would scale back the size of Israel to exclude the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. Recognizing East Jerusalem as the official capital of Palestine. And calling for a third party to oversee Israeli withdrawal. The United States, which has veto power, has already rejected the text prior to this vote, calling the resolution not constructive for a 2-state solution. Joining me now to discuss is RT Arabic correspondent Rima Abu Hamdia. So, Rima, let's talk about this. The resolution, it failed by just 1 vote here. But after January 1st, so 2 days from now, the UN Security Council would actually have 5 new members in place: Angola, Malaysia, New Zealand, Spain, and Venezuela. They would actually replace outgoing countries Argentina, Australia, Luxembourg, Rwanda, and South Korea. Again, Rwanda and South Korea tonight voted against this resolution.
Or abstained.
They abstained. Excuse me, you're right, abstained. In all, 5 incoming nations, though, are pro-Palestinian. So if you're going to really push for this, why not wait 2 days and then move the resolution forward?
Exactly. And the reason that they were only 1 vote short tells you why the Palestinians were pushing for this. A lot of the experts are saying that the only reason the Palestinians were pushing for this before the end of this year, before the new council members join in, is because they want to save the U.S. a veto, the embarrassment of a veto, given what the U.S. is doing in the region, given how this will badly affect the reputation of the U.S. and being a broker of the peace process for the past 2.5 decades. They didn't want to be seen, according to experts, the U.S. didn't want to be seen as somebody who's using the veto once more against the Palestinians in favor of Israel. So this basically saves them the embarrassment of using a veto, and they didn't have to because the resolution came short of the 9 votes needed to pass it.
So what you're saying, to be clear here, you're saying that the Palestinian Authority pushed for this vote before the 1st so that the vote would fail by 8 votes, 7 votes, whatever. It's not reach 9, because if it reaches 9, the U.S. is embarrassed when they have to use a veto, because they will use a veto.
I cannot speak on behalf of the Palestinian Authority. I don't know what the logic is, but this is what experts are saying. A lot of people are questioning the timing, given that the new year only is 2 days from now. So why would you push for a vote knowing that it's going to fail? I mean, they must have had a vote tally before they went into the Security Council and called for this vote to take place. And I was reading right before we came in, some Palestinian factions were actually calling on the Palestinian Authority to stop the voting process, knowing that they're going to fail in the Security Council. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Samantha Powers, said that the U.S. was against this resolution in part because it was one-sided. Yes.
This text addresses the concerns of only one side. It is deeply imbalanced and contains many elements that are not conducive to negotiations between the parties, including unconstructive deadlines that take no account of Israel's legitimate security concerns. In addition, this resolution was put to a vote without a discussion or due consideration among council members. Which is highly unusual, especially considering the gravity of the matter at hand.
Rima, do you believe that the resolution itself was outlandish in the way that it was written? Was all of this just for show, or was there legitimacy to the resolution itself?
There is nothing new in this resolution that people didn't know about. The resolution just calls for the exact same things that the Oslo Accord called for, the Arab League initiative called for, the U.S. has been calling for a long time. There is nothing new in this resolution. Actually, a lot of the Palestinians were against it because it doesn't, for instance, use references to some of the International Security Council resolutions on the Palestinian issue. So There is nothing new in this resolution that would be considered imbalanced, especially by the U.S. I mean, when the resolution calls for for stopping all settlement activities, the U.S. considers the settlements illegal. So why would it be one-sided when it calls for the recognition of 1967 borders? That's why Palestinians went to Oslo for.
And President Obama talked about those 1967 borders as well. Let me ask you this, because, again, based on the idea that if it is true that the Palestinian Authority wanted to put this forward but not be able to put the United States in a position to be embarrassed and have to use that veto, the Palestinian Authority has also warned that if this bid to win support for the UN resolution were to fail, they were prepared to join the International Criminal Court to file suits against Israel. Do you think that happens next?
A lot of the Palestinians now are calling for the authority, or calling on the authority, to join the ICC. But there is this internal debate as to whether the Palestinians should join the ICC or the Justice Court, IJC. And there is this internal debate that is going on right now. And I don't think the Palestinians, if they're going to take that step to go ahead and take it, it's not going to happen anytime soon. The Palestinians did actually try to join the ICC before, and they were asked to do certain things that other countries, my understanding, were not asked to do. So they tried that before. I'm just not sure if that is exactly what's going to happen in the near future, given that they still have to do what the ICC has asked them to do, a lot of legal issues that they were asked to do. Besides, again, there is this internal issue that whether they should join the ICC, and in that case, Israel could use the same rhetoric to try the Palestinians, and the Palestinians fear that the ICC is not going to be fair to them. They're just going to end up being prosecuted, and Israel is just going to have a free hand again.
It certainly looks like over the past 24 hours, there's been a lot of politics, if nothing else. RT Arabic correspondent Arima Abu Hamdia, thank you so much for your time.
You know, the United Nations, the whole thing's, I look at it as a fraud in the first place. It's a monopoly on who's good and who's bad, and there's groups of people and cultures in society that they basically put in a position where they have no power, and it puts other countries in a position where, you know, they would take a risk maybe dealing with another country because of the United Nations and their role and their position at the United Nations. And you know, I don't know if Palestine would be able to get the vote. I think with the right people, with the right, you know, the right representatives from the right countries, and maybe a little bit changing it could get passed. But I just don't know if anything is going to come out of this. It's one of those things where they're constantly fighting. And, you know, we've been through a civil war, and we've come out of it. But I don't think that's the last civil war that we're going to see in this country, honestly. What they have going over there, it's really two radicals going toe-to-toe and a whole bunch of innocent people caught in between. And there's situations where we're going to basically be in that position if we don't learn from our own mistakes and others' mistakes. And that's why, you know, you don't hear us calling for no violent revolution, calling for a peaceful revolution, a revolution of the mind, really, evolution of the mind, where we can respect the others, you know, rights and their right to live their life as they choose. And this this artificial authority over others, and we don't like you drinking alcohol. We're going to make it illegal, or pot, prohibition of things, victimless crimes, all of this, and regulation. All this is, things that hold the American people back. And the problem I see too, though, is even if we try to make it as peaceful as possible, will our government turn violent? I don't know. I think history says that it will. History says that, when the collapse of a country is coming, they kind of pillage on their way out. And, that's another reason why everybody should be prepared. I was talking earlier, I have that link set up for gold and silver. I even got base metal, copper, and aluminum and all that. But I always urge people also go over to ucy.tv and click the UCY store tab. Help support alternative media, not just Anti-Tyranny News, but UCY and other great networks out there. You go to ucy.tv, hit that UCY store tab, and there is a great collection of preparedness stuff. You have your survival stuff there. You have the life straw, water purification tablets, survival food, weather compact emergency radios, two-way emergency crank radios that you can crank up. You don't need a power source other than your arms. There's all kinds of gear. If you need radiation protection, they have that. They have health protection. Great collection of things, though. I mean, they have this little keychain, the nuclear radiation detector keychain. It might be a little pricey for some people, but it's a nice thing to have on your keychain. But, if you can't afford that, get a rad sticker. That turns colors if you get exposed to radiation. You could tell that, hey, my sticker's starting to turn colors. I better get the hell out of here, or seek, shelter. Those are only $5. It's one of those things that the time to prepare is now. And, this is all through Amazon.com. So you're getting the same deals you would normally get going through Amazon, but in the process, you're helping support UCY, which gives hosts like me and the other ones on this network a great platform. They don't charge us, and it's all supported by you, the listener. So it's very important that when you can, try to buy your products through these links and help support networks, and you're not paying any more for your products. We just get, our 25 cents or whatever off of that product, and every little cent helps when it comes time for bills to be paid to run these networks and websites. And again, antityrannynews.com/metal, and you can get gold, silver, copper, base metals at a really, really good price. And that helps support alternative media. So that's ucy.tv, hit the UCY store link, and antityrannynews.com/metal. Now, last broadcast, I talked a little bit about NYPD, their work stoppage. Basically, they're not basically going after victimless crimes. Here's an article from the Rolling Stone. NYPD's work stoppage is surreal. Brace yourselves for a weird night. There might be a little extra drama when the ball drops in Times Square, thanks to one of the more confusing political protests in recent memory. And this was posted on the 31st, so it is a little. So it says, on a night when more than 1 million potential law-breaking, probably tipsy revelers will be crowding the most densely populated city blocks in America, all eyes will be on the city cops stuck in the holiday duty. Why? Because the New York City police are in the middle of a slowdown. The New York Post is going so far as to call virtual work stoppage. Furious at embattled Mayor Bill de Blasio and at what Police Benevolent Association Chief Patrick Lynch calls a hostile anti-police environment in the city, the local officers are simply refusing to arrest or ticket people for minor offenses. Such arrests have dropped off a staggering 94%, with overall arrests plunging 66%. And now many people are saying, this is out of the Rolling Stone, but I'm just talking about articles and other things I've been reading and posts that I've been reading, that people are kind of happy. They don't feel like they're being harassed as much. So, the NYPD is basically doing this to, they want to hold their authority, and they don't like the fact that Bill de Blasio isn't backing whatever they do, even if it's wrong. You're putting us in a bad... No, you put yourself in a bad situation. And all the good cops out there, when you don't speak up about the bad, when, you don't know what our job... Yes, I do. There's been soldiers in the middle of war that have been able to hold their composure, and there's ones that haven't. And it's the same with the cops, but you have to be able to call out the bad, because guess what? You're not at war with the citizens, except you seem to put yourself in that position where you allow yourselves to be used. It's not the individual person that we have a problem with. It's the, victimless crime, constantly feeling like you're harassed, where you don't feel that. When a cop gets behind you, when you're going down the road, that all of a sudden you're safe. You feel threatened. That's got to change. Nothing Bill de Blasio says is going to help the situation with the people out there. Well, you think if he comes out and goes, I think they did one, you think that's going to make people any less pissed off? I don't see that happening. I do not see that happening. Okay, I think I'm going to take a second here, give a shout out to everybody in the chat room. We have Desert, Hopper, Jax, JJ, Joe Friday, Vince, Captain, and a few Anons in the chat tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. And go check out the chat room. You can go to ucy.tv/ATN, or you can also go to atnewsradio.com. join the people in the chat. There's always great people in there. You know, different discussions and great ideas. You know, we need to be able to share ideas and communicate with like-minded people, people that truly believe in liberty and freedom. And, you know, the UCY chat room is a great place to do that. I'm going to go ahead and open the phone lines for about 15 minutes here. 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. And if you do have me on Skype, feel free to contact me that way. If you have anything to discuss about this upcoming year, this 2015, what do you think is one of the major issues facing us for 2015? Is there anything that you see in 2014 that might lead you to believe that we're facing something? Feel free to call in 718-717-8296. And if you have me on Skype again, you can contact me that way. I think that we're headed to a financial bubble. And I think that the beginning of that was right when you seen gas prices drop. And I think we're about to see a bubble pop. Now, hopefully it doesn't happen. You know, just because, you know, you hear a lot of us hosts talk about, you know, a possible financial collapse, all these issues, it's not to fear monger. It's saying let's learn from our history. And then when the power structure is not listening to the people, is not willing to stop doing what history has proven to be devastating for a society, definitely the people, the everyday person. When history has proven that, then we're not fear mongering. We're saying this is what needs to happen. We need to reverse this course because we know that this course that we're on leads to a bad place. History has proven that. And when the power structure is not willing to reverse course, we're not fear-mongering. We're telling you, just prepare yourself. Whether it be gold, silver, Bitcoin, seeds, you know, preparedness items, firearms, you know, it's one of those things that you have to prepare for what you see coming. And if you look at history, the real history, you know exactly what direction we're headed right now, where this takes us. And every scenario is possible. It's just which one is going to actually happen first. And you almost juggle it, because once you'll see the dollar starts collapsing, you're like, well, there it goes. Oh, well, it kind of didn't fully collapse. And then Fukushima. Oh, okay, Fukushima happened. It's not quite as bad as we thought, but it's still bad. But it wasn't a full, you know, catastrophe where people started showing up at hospitals from radiation poisoning, you know, blistering everywhere. Okay, you know, it wasn't that. What's next? And I really think that with China, Russia buying gold, with them trying to trade oil in other currencies other than the U.S. dollar. I think with what seems to be a economic bubble that we've created, we watch this false sense of things are getting back to normal. Really? All those full-time workers that got laid off and now work part-time, and when you break it down hourly, they're making a lot less than what they made at their full-time job before they got laid off. So even with the part-time job, even if it was full-time at their pay rate, they still wouldn't be making what they were. That's not a better economy. They've created this bubble that they've been able to benefit off of, and I think it's going to collapse. I don't know. Again, what do you think? If you want to call in, we'll have the phone lines open for another 9 minutes. 718-717-8296. 718-717-8296. Feel free to call in. You know, there was something I did see on mainstream TV that did kind of give me some hope that it's something you don't see a lot of times. It was on mainstream, and it was about this restaurant. And this restaurant, I forget if it was in Texas or where it was, had a sign out front, said God, guns, and gumbo. This restaurant gives a discount if you have a gun with you. And their sales went up like 20-25% or something. You walk in and pretty much all the customers have guns on their hips or in their purse. There was a lady that drove a long ways just to get food there, just to support it. And I mean, this place was packed. And it kind of reminds me that in America, we still have a very, very deep culture when it comes to personal liberty and our Second Amendment, our right to our firearms. Our firearms have always been a crucial thing to Americans, even before we were, the United States. Not only for hunting, defense against thieves, robbers, rapists, defense against tyranny. And that's what created this country. And there's still that really deep-rooted culture when it comes to guns, that just because you have a gun doesn't mean you're violent. Just because you have a gun doesn't mean that you plan to shoot someone. Just because you have a gun doesn't mean that you're threatening. I grew up around guns. When I would hear someone talk about a gun in a negative way, and I'm kind of like looking at them when I was younger and just, what are you talking about? And, there was a couple times I kind of like, I would be, I think I was in middle school the first time I said something, but, kids were talking about how bad guns were, and those are to kill people. And, I looked at him, I said, I grew up around guns my whole life. I've shot lots of guns. I've never seen anybody killed with one in front of me. it was one of those things when I was that young, I've never seen a dead body in front of me. I've seen it since, but I've never seen, growing up, people mishandling guns. I was, taught gun safety. I was taught all this at a young age. And to hear people talk negatively about guns and try to characterize people that own guns or assault rifles, no, it's a culture. It's fun. I've been shooting targets since I was young. It's I fish. I'm an outdoors person. I like this stuff. It's deeply rooted in me. And we see that that hasn't died off. And I think that's the one positive that we as Americans do have looking into the future. Is I think there's too much deeply rooted gun culture in the U.S. for them to get our guns. And I don't even think the United Nations will have the power. But you know what? I'm sure a lot of Britons thought that too. But, the wealthy people over there in Britain still got their guns, I'm sure. The elites. If not, they got protection. But we always have to be able to defend ourselves against tyranny. When they want to try to round people up, that's not going to happen when the gun culture in America is the way it is. And just seeing the amount of people in that restaurant gave me, that hope that, what? If they push the American people too far, the American people will defend themselves. And, even the veterans, they understand, we're losing freedom. We're losing America. And if they push it too far, that, people will defend themselves. And, I hope it never gets to that point. I hope that society can change the course before it would ever get to that point. Because I don't want to see violence breaking out in the streets. Okay, 3 more minutes you can call in, and I'm not taking calls after that. 718-717-8296. Feel free to call in. We are coming up to the end of the show. Looking back at 2014, we've been through a lot. We've faced a lot of crap. But we've also learned a lot. I think a lot of people learn ineffective ways at going after the system. I think others have perfected their already effective ways at going against the power structure, the elite that run the country and the world. I think part of that is groups of people, communities that are standing up on their own 2 feet and saying, I don't care what the federal government, United Nations say, we're nullifying these laws. We will make it legal. And we will make it illegal for anybody that attempts to, abridge these rights. So you look back in past 2 years, nullification, it's been a tool that at the state level, people have been able to do things. And again, we also know that the sheriffs have the ability to really step up. And, we had the Bundy Ranch situation where the sheriff didn't really stand up. He might have diffused the situation a little bit, but he didn't stand up. And I hope the people out there will find a sheriff that's willing to stand up against the feds. And I hope that happens around the country. Find your county sheriffs. They're willing to stand up against federal agents that want to impose regulations and rules and basically commit theft in your community. And if you don't believe you're in the position where they're going to harass you, so it's not that big of a deal. Well, once they're done harassing one group of people, they'll be on to the next. When that becomes their job is to regulate and or destroy, eventually you're going to be in their path. Unless you are one of them. Which I'm pretty sure you're not. Even the lower level government people aren't. A lot of times it seems that they're willing slaves that will give up so much for nothing. I'll say hi, JJ, in the chat. I already said hi to everybody, I think. There's probably another Anon, maybe. Yep. Well, saying our shout out, Desert, Hopper, Jax, JJ Joe, Vince, Captain, and there's 4 Anons in the chat right now. Again, check out the chat room. Just go to ucy.tv/ATN. Or you can go to ucy.tv and click the shows or schedule and go to that show or schedule. And you can find the chat room on any of the show pages. Always great people in the chat. Stay tuned here on UCY. You have Character Matters with Dr. George Simmon coming up next. So definitely stay tuned. Always a great broadcast here on UCY.tv. And you know what? When we go forward for 2015, I think the one thing that we should also be focusing on is what are we going to do to change ourselves to make the world better? What can you do personally in your own life to make your life better and your community's life better? And I'm not saying collectivism. I'm saying what impact can you have on your community and make it better? And, you know, people are like, you know, well, they don't like what I do, so, you know, they're not going to care. Well, you know what? The mob, there was a lot of people that didn't like the violence the mob brought, didn't like this or that. Why did they put it up with the mob? Because the mob was always there for the community. They knew that it was essential. Well, as a freedom lover, as a spreader of the message of liberty and freedom, you have to be the same way. You have to be that person that is spreading a message and helping out their community. That's the most effective way. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care. Stay tuned here on UCY.tv. Have a great weekend.